Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
I want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of today's show. That is B Pro by the Better Software Company, the #1 all-inclusive small business management solution. Customer revenue is the lifeblood of any small business, and that's where B Pro comes in. With a variety of features to help you boost your business, including email marketing, lead generation, opportunity management, B Pro will even remind you when a customer is likely ready to buy from you again. And as you will hear on today's episode, leveraging other people's customer databases to help you grow your own database, you will want something like B Pro to follow up with those new customers that have come into your database. And only B Pro offers the same functionality on your smartphone as on your laptop. So you can get started today at thebettersoftwarecompany.com. Tell them you heard them about Jimbo from the Auto Detailing Podcast, and they're going to give you some freebies. And real quick, I want to tell you my favorite option, and that is setting reminders within the software to remind me to follow up with a customer. So I go out and do a detail for a customer, and then I ask them, hey, do you want me to remind you in 3 months that it's ready to get your car detailed again, or 2 months, or whatever time frame you set? And they always say, oh yeah, that'd be great. Why don't you shoot me a call? And so what I do is I go on my phone through their app, or I go when I get home on my desktop computer, and I set in a reminder for the set timeline that we had, that we agreed upon, the customer. So, and then when the 3 months comes up or whatever, it automatically will populate on my dashboard in B Pro to call that customer. So that's an awesome feature. And then I use another app called SlyDial, unrelated to B Pro, but SlyDial, to drop a voicemail in that customer's inbox, or in their voicemail inbox, that is. So that's my favorite feature of the B Pro. Here we go. All right, welcome to episode 254 of the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm Jimbo, your host. Today we have Mr. Mitch. Why do I always mess up on the stupid names, even though I say them right before? Mitch Jackson of Divine Detailing in Melbourne, Australia. Mitch, welcome to the show. Sorry for butchering your name.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
Even though it's you're very welcome. Even though it's one of the easier names to pronounce, I just get tongue-tied as soon as I hit that little red record button.
Yeah, it's the pressure, mate.
The pressure, it's getting to me. So, Mitch, you own Divine Detailing, and you reached out and told me, well, we've talked a few times over Facebook message, but you've found a niche that really works, or a niche that is working well for you within the detailing space as it relates to getting consistent work in the door. And I thought it was an awesome way and a different avenue that a lot of guys could benefit from. So I want to take a deep dive into that later in the episode. But before we do that, tell us how you got into detailing, first of all, and then what the detailing climate is like down in Melbourne.
All right. Basically, I'd start off by saying I started detailing, or what I thought was detailing, and now look as more glorified car washing. When I was sort of 16, 17, as most of us did, and sort of went from there. At the time I was working at a company in a managerial position. Then I ended up doing quality assurance management for a company whilst detailing on the side and at night. And I actually had a detailer come out. Thought, how about I get a professional guy to come out and do my car and see the difference? And I was actually astonished at what he charged me and what the car looked like at the end. And so from then on,
tell us about that. What did you have done?
Well, basically, it was my father's car at the time, and there was some swirls and stuff like that in it. It was actually a new car, as you typically see from the dealership, with the factory installed swirls and marks and that. And the guy came out, and I think from memory he charged about $400 or $450. Was there for about 3.5 hours, and the car looked marginally improved. And so I sort of thought to myself, well, if that's what he's doing, and I saw this guy's quite well known around his local area and always busy, I thought, well, geez, if I do it right, you can make some decent money off of it, and surely it's not going to be that hard. So then I actually started my first detailing business, and started doing it at nights, weekends, and all that sort of stuff. And eventually got to the point where I was busy enough, I actually quit my other job and took it up full time, and moved into a factory. Got that business quite successful, making quite good money, considering I had no employees, because I'm not a huge fan of employees at the moment.
I hear you.
And then I got an offer to move into another sector where we're actually importing products that were non-car detailing related, but importing products over and selling those. And that actually started building quite quickly, and I ended up having not enough time for the detailing business and that, and I decided to close it down and chase this other importing one. And as things do, they've actually found a cheaper product now that's similar, so that started to die off. So about 18 months or 2 years ago, I decided to open up Divine Detailing and just use the importing business as basically supplemental income and get back into the detailing industry, because it's really at the heart of what I want to do. I'm back here again. I can't leave it.
That's, it's funny. I was just having a conversation with Darren Priest today, that me and him go on these like hour-long tirades, and it's funny how common that thread is of constantly trying to get out of the detailing business and constantly being sucked back into it. And I've had, I joke that at least once a year I try and get out of it, and it sucks me back in. And it's just amazing to me that I don't know, I can't quite pinpoint exactly what it is, and it's probably because it's a few different reasons why people get sucked back in. But it's just amazing how many times us as detailers think the grass is greener on the other side being some other industry, and yet we have it so dang good in this detailing industry. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with personal satisfaction. That there's not many jobs these days where, in such a relatively short turnover, I mean, building a house or something like that, some people get the same, but it's much more personalised in detailing. If you can have a car for a day or 2 or 3 or 4 days, and the client comes and they're absolutely ecstatic and the car looks better than what they expected, that personal satisfaction that you get from that job is relatively high compared to many other jobs out there, and you can't really get that anywhere else, I don't think. Yeah. So are you, I see on your Facebook page it says mobile detailing. Are you doing mobile detailing exclusively? Is that just in the name now, or just in the name and you have a shop now? Do you have both, or how's that working?
That's just in the name.
Okay.
Originally it was fully mobile, just to reduce the overheads at the start and also make it easier for clients that don't want to come and drop their car off and find somewhere back and all that sort of stuff. In saying that, I am changing it over to remove that from the name, as I have set up a detailing studio now. Just getting the finishing touches this weekend, and still will be doing mobile, but also have the studio and try and do most of our work from there, and tend to some specific clients and regular clients through the mobile detailing side of it.
And do you have employees now?
No.
Nice.
No. I try not to. A few sort of bad experiences through other friends and that in the detailing industry, such as giving them a van and then all of a sudden the amount of jobs they're doing but the amount of materials they're going through doesn't seem to add up, and you find out that on the weekends they're charging friends and that and using all your materials.
100%, man.
So I don't like that, and you can't. You can get them to do menial tasks, or you train them up for 12 months or 18 months or 2 years, and then they decide to just leave and become your competition. So I don't like the sounds of that.
Nice. And on that, I agree with you that, a lot of people ask me to, why don't you scale up your business? Why don't you blah, 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 hire a bunch of guys? And there's a few different laws going around in California where I'm at specifically that are even more of a hindrance for and even more of a hurdle. But, just if that wasn't even a factor, the headache of the stuff that you just talked about of having to deal and manage these people is just something that I'm not willing to do. But with that said, I do have a crew doing some municipality work for me. But on the topic, or onto today's topic, actually, because it ties directly in with what you just talked about with not having employees. So if you don't have employees, it's harder to have, like in your Facebook message to me, 1,000 clients. That would be a pretty big database to work by yourself. But you said your theory is why maintain 1,000 clients and consistently find new ones when I can manage 10 shops with 500 plus clients each instead. So talk about how you dumped forums, clubs, AdWords, and most B2C advertising, that would be business to consumer advertising. And so tell us how you used to market and how that worked for you, and then what made you make the switch.
Yeah, well, if I could go back to my first detailing business, because I ran the marketing and that business totally different. That would be good if I could do that for a minute.
Absolutely.
Basically, that business was the typical, all right, let's advertise on the forums, let's get involved in, car clubs and run AdWords and all this sort of stuff. And he's saying that I do still use AdWords, though it's only a small amount and mainly for remarketing.
I was about to say, come on, man, AdWords is my jam.
Yeah, and I use, the little pesky ads that follow people around once they visit your site and stuff like that. They're great. But as far as car forums and car clubs and that, I found they're not really everyone's target market in the way that I did get a lot of jobs from some of the forums, but I found a lot of the forums also, there were more people there that wanted to ask questions so they could do their own detailing.
Yes.
As opposed to paying me to detail. And that's well and good. I'm here to help out, anyone. But when it starts impeding, if I got, 2 hours of forum questions a night that I have to sit there and answer to help other people I'm not making money off of, well, you got to draw the line somewhere. The other thing with forums is they're very community orientated. And even if you're a sponsor, you're not always quite taken into that community. So, for instance, I had on a forum over here, a guy, I did his car, he came, had a look around his car for about 20 minutes, half an hour, was completely wrapped with it, paid the bill, everything was good. 3 months later, I got a call from another client who said this guy was on a forum and bagging out the work that I did, basically putting down the work and saying that I was no good. So I actually joined up on the forum and did quite a politically correct. I didn't get in his face or abuse him or anything like that. And I said, well, hold on a second. You came, you had a look at the car for this long, you paid the money, you're happy with it. You could have, if there was something, because everyone's human, you can miss something here or there. If there was something, just let me know. He ended up apologising to me publicly on the forum and saying, you're right, I was just having a bad day, this, that, and the other. 2 months later, he ended up doing the same thing again. And I found from that basically people would just jump on board without even knowing the facts, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy. So all this good work you could have done, you lose straight away. So after that, I decided forums aren't the way to go either. And, listen to your podcast and other business and marketing podcasts, and I sort of started thinking, well, exactly as you said, why have 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 clients in your database? And you've got to maintain them, and it's good to call them or, follow up with them and all that sort of stuff and constantly look for new clients. When you can have 5, 10, 15 shops around your local area that already have a client base of your target market. So for me, for instance, Porsche shops, BMW shops, some Mercedes ones, luxury car shops, all that sort of stuff that do performance work and maintenance work. You go and speak to them. You can offer them slightly discounted pricing, so it gives them something that they want to push your product and want to use your product and your services. and then you've only got 10 people you have to maintain. You can go and see them every fortnight, one day every fortnight to keep in their face and there so they remember you. And each one of them could have 500 or 1,000 clients.
So how are you choosing these shops? I understand what you're saying because and this is an interesting concept that we actually talked about at the Detailer Marketing Bootcamp, but by leveraging someone else's database of customers, which is brilliant because like you said, it actually puts a lot less work on you.
Yes.
And then you're giving them a little kickback or whatever. And so they're making some money too. So they're incentivized because they're like, hey, I can make $100, $50, whatever, and all I got to do is talk. I don't have to do any of the work. And then we have Mitch come in and actually complete the work or whatever.
It costs them nothing in their labour, nothing for insurance to cover somebody or their superannuation, which is basically their retirement plan over here and all that sort of stuff. So it ends up cheaper for them in a way, and they can still make $1.
So how are you selecting these shops? And then once you have selected those shops, if you don't know the people or have current existing relationships with that shop or that person that runs that shop, how do you make that happen?
So the way I found a lot of shops is obviously having some friends in shops who have given me, passes through networks or put in the word for me somewhere where I can go down and speak to them. The other way, I've got a lot of shops just cold calling. And I'll just call up and say, hey, I'd like to come down. There's no point. I like to get in front of the person as opposed to just, having a talk over the phone. I find if you get in front of them and you show them exactly what you're about and they see you, they're more likely to remember you. So I'll go down to shops and I'll find these shops on, the target market that I have. So on, say, the Porsche Forum for Australia. Well, they've got X, Y, and Z who are mechanics or, shops and that people keep recommending and keep mentioning in the forum. Well, boom, that's where I want to go. So I'll go and speak to those 3 shops. If you get 1 or 2 of them, all of a sudden, a lot of those clients that are on that forum will end up knowing about you if they're using your product and pushing your brand.
Interesting. So did you, what was like the first shop you started with? Maybe not their name, but what did they do?
The first shop that I really started with was actually a lighting. They do lighting upgrades for cars, and they're quite busy always doing, like headlights and interior lights and all that sort of stuff, changing over to LEDs and that. And they're quite a busy shop. And from there, they actually put me in contact with what is now probably, easily my biggest client, who's a BMW performance specialist in Melbourne that a lot of people know. And they're easily, probably for about a week and a half, I was solely doing their work a couple of weeks ago. Wow. That's how busy you can be just from one shop. So, you imagine you have 10 shops. If they actually get behind your product and your brand properly and they push it, imagine how busy you can be if you got 10 of those.
Right. And I just want to clarify for everyone listening, Mitch isn't talking about doing dealer work at all. In fact, he's talking about just leveraging the customers that these other performance shops, upgrade shops, whatever, leveraging their database of customers to funnel retail detailing work directly to him. Now, Mitch, are you did you, when you were looking for a shop, did you strategically look for a location that was close by to all these shops, or are you doing it mobily at their shop? Because I'm sure they're positioning it that the shop, whatever shop is selling it, I'm sure they're positioning it like they have an in-house detail guy, right?
I think some are, some not so much. Some of them I'll literally go directly to the client. And this is where a bit of trust and everything comes in as well. And a lot of people burn bridges. For instance, I've had calls from a couple clients that have specific cars that I believe are cars from shops that I do work for. And so that's where I ask the question, how'd you find out about me? And they'll say, well, such and such a shop. Well, when that's the case, some people will go, they've called me direct, so I'm not going to let them know and do the right thing. Or I'll go straight to their house and do it. And that's where you're actually going to lose the business in the end. as far as where my shop is now, this is an even funnier story. Southern BM, which is the company I was just talking about that do all the upgrades and the maintenance and that for BMWs in Melbourne. I was doing that much work for them. They actually have a second factory that they use for storage. And there was some extra room there. And so we worked out a deal, and I'm basically moved into their second factory, which is next door to them. So, so
Perfect.
that's only about 15 minutes from the city as well. Quite a central location and right next door to my biggest client.
What are some hiccups, or what are some like challenges that you face when trying to do this?
Challenges,
or are there none? Is it all upside?
Realistically, I haven't had many. The biggest thing is having over-promised, under-delivered SEO people. That's a different sort of topic.
That's okay. We could switch topics. So is SEO something that you've really focused on as well?
Yes.
Okay. And trying to get more shops, or is the shops that you work with, is that like one aspect of your business and kind of the bread and butter, and then you have the SEO stuff that you're working hard on?
Exactly right. So the shops are basically giving me a foundation, and keep me busy. I want to build up the SEO because obviously being the top of Google, I will get more work, though. As I said, I don't want to build a massive clientele list still, but it's also brand awareness. So, if I go to a shop and I say, this is what I'm pushing and that, and I can just, if they want, or I can just send them a link or say, hey, just search up car detailing Melbourne on Google and you'll see my company there. Well, being at the top of Google automatically gives you brownie points subconsciously, I think.
Right.
They go, this is obviously good business, as well as having a well-presented website.
Yeah, I'm on your website right now. Your website is phenomenal. That's divinedetailing.com.au if you guys want to.
Still a bit of a work in progress. I still got content to do on it. That's only about 3 weeks old, that site. So,
yeah, but you got a
a
nice image. Do you play rugby or footy?
No, I don't.
All right.
Not anymore, mate. In my younger days, I actually lived in Atlanta for 9 years, and
really?
played football over there. Well, what they'll call gridiron over here, and but that's about it.
And on the topic of your website, not that I'm some website guru or whatever, but one thing that I really like is that you have the picture of you on your website, and I think that's something that detailers could really benefit from, is at least, maybe it doesn't need to be on the homepage or whatever, but at least maybe on your about page or something like that. If you have a picture of yourself, I think that speaks volumes, because as a customer looking for a detailer, I find not a lot of people, but some people are a little leery. Some people have never done this before, hired a detailer. And so if you could kind of put them at ease by at least, you're kind of an intimidating looking dude. But which I don't mean that in a bad way at all. But if at least if people can expect you showing up, they know what to expect. You know what I mean?
100%. Sometimes when you rock up and the client's got a $500,000, $1 million car, and you rock up and you're a thick guy with tattoos and a shaved head, it's I suppose it can be a bit intimidating.
Yeah, but if they know, if they're already expecting that, then I don't think it's as big of a deal. So I see on your website you have you posing with that GT3 RS in a couple different places. So kudos to you, and your website.
I actually didn't
really
want to do that either. That was my web guy goes, look, you need a photo of yourself. That's a big thing these days. So you're on the money. That's what even the top web guys and that are saying. So
there you go. So what struggles are you having with your SEO? Just having the guy do the work?
Being someone that doesn't know much about SEO, I've done a lot of reading up and tried to figure out as much as possible. But being relatively unknowledgeable on the whole market and stuff like that, it's finding someone that you can trust. I've paid some companies $2,000, $2,500 a month. I know not to trust these people that say, "Oh, I'll get you number one within 3 months" or something like that. But these are quite reputable companies, or so they seem, and stuff like that, and really got nowhere. In 6 months or whatever. I'm now with a company who actually designed that website as well, doing my SEO, and they seem to be doing a good job of making some good movements quite quickly, and so I'm quite optimistic about this mob and getting where I want to be as far as SEO is.
I think your website, I definitely tell people, like, your website is your home base online, and excuse me, so if you can make that kind of focus on that, that's a great starting point. But as it relates to the original topic that we were talking about, what is how would you suggest someone who's like, man, this is a great idea, there's a ton of stereo, tint, LED, aftermarket lights, off-road shops, you name it, mechanics, there's all maybe they're positioned perfectly in this location where they have a bunch of these other shops that they've never even thought about before networking with. What would be like the initial step? Would it be to kind of figure out who's working with your clientele that you want, or how would they start?
Grow a thick skin.
yeah, good one.
There's quite a few high-end shops and that I went to, and they basically didn't want to give me the time of day, and sort of really upset me at the time, but at the same time, it's like, well, you got to move forward. So first things, grow a thick skin. You're going to get told no. Second is, not every shop, every workshop, stereo shop, and all that are going to use your product. They may say, "Oh yeah, we will," but they don't. You're not actually going to get much work out of it. What you want to look for is the shops that actually also care about the way their cars look. So they naturally, somebody that owns the workshop or the manager or whatever it is that actually walks out and can see the swirls and imperfections in the car and goes, "Oh, I want to get this cleaned up," as opposed to the shop where they're washing 30 cars that they service a day with a dirty rag and they're putting scratches in it. Well, you're not going to get much work out of them. So choose your shops carefully. Also, choose your shops in your target market. There's no point going around to your local family mechanic that's doing your run-of-the-mill cars every day if you want to charge $400 or $500 a detail. It's just not going to happen. Go to the shops that have the cars and the clientele that you want, and stay there and put it in their face. Go with some examples and show them some of your work, and always try and talk to the boss, not just the manager or the shop manager or one of the employees. Talk to the owner and explain to them how they can benefit. So it's not also that they get a small percentage, in my case, out of the job, but they also now have another service that they can add on to their clients. So if they come in and they spend $20,000 or $30,000 on performance upgrades, they can do a $400 or $500 detail, and the client comes to pick up the car and goes, "Wow, the car looks amazing." Yeah, well, we threw that in complimentary, or whatever.
How do you get to the boss? Do you have any good stories of like a shop that you tried to get into, you were dealing with the gatekeeper or the receptionist forever, and then you did something and you finally broke through, got to the decision maker, and landed it? Do you have any tips for people that are running up against that wall, hitting it, and not being able to break through? Do you buy cookies?
A few sneaky little
Let's
tricks.
Hear it.
Some of the podcasts I listen to are, have to do with basically social engineering and that, and so
that's all right. Yep.
It's not always running straight into the shop and going, "Hey, here I am." It's sometimes you might have to call up and pretend you're somebody else and say, "I'm calling from such and such. You just need to speak to the owner or the shop owner or something." Then you find their name.
Yep.
Then a couple of weeks later, you're going to call back and
Yep, I'm a part-time private investigator.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and you might call back in a couple of weeks and go, "Oh, hi, yeah, I had to call back such and such, who's the shop owner," and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, okay, was he expecting your call?" I'm not sure if he was expecting it, but I'm just returning one from a couple of days ago. A lot of the times they're that busy, they don't remember who they've called. All of a sudden, you're on the phone to them. So, and then you can say, hey, I wanted to pop down and show you this, that, and give them a short spiel on the phone. And a lot of the times they're just going to say to you, yeah, we'll pop down on such and such.
I can't tell you how many times I've started a conversation with my wife of, don't ask how I know this, but I found out this guy, and I called him, and I'm in. So, yes, I'm all for, let's call it unconventional ways of getting past the gatekeeper. But, yeah, that's a good one, of just make a phone call.
Another way,
yeah,
and this I did this once before, and it didn't actually turn out to be profitable for me because I didn't get much work out of the boss in the end, but until you do it, you never know. And that's basically, I called up a couple times and the boss was always busy in quotation marks, or, wasn't there or something. I said, look, I'd really like to speak to your boss. I'll tell you what, if you put me through to your boss and he books in a job, I'll do a mini detail for you valued at $200 for putting me through. And so then they have a reason to put you through. And, she wants a detail. She wants a $200 detail or whatever it is. And so she might even go to the boss and say, hey, I was speaking to this guy and you might even get the good word put in. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But this was when the business was just starting up, and, $200 detail in is bugger all in products and, a couple hours labor.
Right.
It's worth the gamble.
Exactly. That's a great tip too. Just offer free stuff. And a lot of people get hung up in, oh, well, I don't want to offer a free service. And like you just mentioned, it's like, well, what do you really have to lose? Like $10 in hard product cost in your labor? Like it's really not that much money. When
you're starting out, what are you going to do? Sit at home for the whole day instead?
And
you may as well go do the 2 hours. In saying that, it's not good to discount all the time. The business is at a point now where I very rarely discount or discount never, unless the job's quite large and in the thousands. Then I'll make a small discount, because I find if you're discounting every job, you're diminishing your brand as well.
Right.
That becomes a norm, and everyone says, oh, go and see Mitch or Jimbo, or, when he tells you this price, just ask me if he can do better and say that you're a friend of mine. Then all of a sudden you got a discount for that job, and the next one, the next one, next one.
Right. Yeah. That you
got to say no.
That could get you in a pretty bad spot. Definitely. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned or talked about in relation to this, or anything really at all that you want to talk about?
No, I've got everything covered, I think.
All right. So
it's a good little tip for some people.
Yeah, no, I actually think it's a really viable, great option for people to, whether they're just starting out or looking to grow their brand, and increase revenue. I think it's a phenomenal way to go. So if people want to reach you, if there's someone out there, maybe an enthusiast in the Melbourne area, how can they get in contact with you?
DivineDetailing.com.au, and on Facebook, Divine Mobile Detailing, or Facebook.com/Divine Mobile Detailing, and send us a message, and we can help you out with any questions or jobs.
Awesome. And I'm going to have all this linked up in the show notes below so people can get those direct links to you as well. Mitch, I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing some tips and tricks and helping other guys out.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. Head on over to autodetailingpodcast.com for full show notes and links of everything that we've talked about today. And don't forget to check out our resources page for a direct link to all the products talked about not only on today's episode, but that I use in my day-to-day detail business. They have direct links so you can purchase and get free shipping right from that page. That's autodetailingpodcast.com. We'll see you on the next episode.